Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to use the Simon Says stamp Bouquet of Thanks to make a card. I used my EK Success tool and powdered the paper up so that the embossing powder would not stick to it after I used the Versamark ink, and that tool saves a lot of time and headache. And that is some Canson watercolor paper. I just cut it in half and then half again, and after I have made the card, I will trim it down to fit to an A2 size, which is the 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So I'm pressing that down, making sure that it's really well stamped onto the paper so that the gold embossing powder will stick to all of the areas. And again, I did use Versamark ink. That is the ink that you need to use in order to use embossing powder. Little side note, I can't stand gold, especially gold jewelry, but gold embossing powder is by far my favorite embossing powder to use. I just think it's very elegant and classy. Now I'm using my heat tool and I'm heating up that embossing powder. And this is the Gonzai Tambi watercolor, and I used that deep red. It's actually number 36, and I just put it on a really cheap palette. I love this watercolor, so I tried to save it. I was putting it on my acrylic stamp blocks, but decided I really just wanted to hold on to it, not waste any of the paint. Now here I'm just laying down somewhat clean water, and this is sort of the easy way out. If you lay down the water first and then put the paint on top, then it's more likely to stay where you want it to stay. And of course, if you're doing it inside of an embossed image, the border helps the paint to stay inside the image as well. I'm going kind of slow, but I'm wanting to lay down a good amount of color. I want it to be very vibrant because, of course, when it dries, it's going to draw back a little bit and not be as vibrant and not as red. And then my goal was to actually use glossy accents to add a little bit of shine and dimension to the card. And so when you do that, it sort of tones it down a little as well. So I did want to make sure that this was nice and vibrant, and I do love that red, so I am trying to utilize as much of that as possible. And I just keep going, filling in all of these flowers with the red. I want to lay down a good amount because, again, it is going to dry back a little bit. I'm pretty sure I was using a number 6. It's either number 6 or number 8 watercolor brush, which worked really well with the flowers. I couldn't find my smaller brush to do the stems. So I just went pretty slow with the stems of the flowers and then edited that out. Now here you see I'm using the number 53, and I am painting in the stems. And again, I'm going pretty slow here to make sure that I stayed within those lines. And then I also wanted to show you that I came back in with the number 51. I like to use two different colors for the leaves or the stems, and that way it adds a little bit more of dimension to it. And then finally I used number 57 for the background, and I just wanted to add a little bit of contrast with the the red flowers and add a little bit more to the card. So I did come in with a 57 after I laid, again, you know, some more water down, and that way it keeps the paint where you want it to be. It's the safe route. And there I go, actually laying the paint down after the water has been put on the watercolor paper, and it sort of flows out from the image, and it's only going to go where the water has been laid down on that paper. And so I continue to do that throughout the card. So there it is, all finished. I didn't think you wanted to see me paint the whole thing. And then I did get my Wink of Stella, and I wanted to add a little bit of shine to the flowers. So I did lay this down. I waited a minute or two and let it dry, and then you'll see that I come in with the glossy accents. I only really put the Wink of Stella on the flowers. I didn't put them on the stems just because I really wanted the red to stand out and shine a little bit more than, you know, the rest of the card. And there's the glossy accents. I do have it in a smaller container with the fine tip applicator, but for this I just went ahead and used the big bottle since I didn't have to be too precise. So I laid that down over all of the images, all of the flowers, I guess I should say. And then I let that dry, and this is where I came in and cut the card down to an A2 size, and again that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And this is just a hello sentiment that I had already die cut out using my die cutting machine on just some glitter cardstock. And I'm using the Ranger Multimedia Matte to lay that down. I used to use the Tombow glue all the time, and sometimes I still do, but I like this adhesive better just because it does dry matte and it's not sticky when it dries, so if any seeps out, it's not that big of a deal. And so I put that on the back and laid that down near the bottom. And again, gold. I'm an odd person, I guess, because I don't like gold, but I love it with paper crafting. So then I put my acrylic block on top just to let that, you know, press down into it while I'm using the multi-medium again to lay down some dots so that I can put some gold sequins just randomly throughout, add a little bit more sparkle to the card. I get my jewel picker, which I actually really like. I've had a bunch of different tools to put sequins down, and so far this has been my favorite. It's pretty consistent, doesn't really seem to lose its tack in order to pick up those sequins. And this is when I come in with just the A2 base. It's really just an 8 1/2 by 11 cardstock, cut down back, if you remember in art school, hot dog, because I like it to fold at the top. And this is where I come in with the Tombow Mono Permanent adhesive, and attached that to the card base, and that's the card. I hope you enjoyed.